Hello everyone, please press subscribe, press follow, press the bell so you don't miss any new clips. The Divine Nine Dragon Cauldron. Author by Heavenly Overlord. Translator by NYOIBO Studio. Audio novels by Novelist. The Divine Nine Dragon Cauldron. Chapter 151, The Abyss Assessment. What? There's another way. Su Yu's lost eyes suddenly lit up. Senior brother Wu, please quickly say it. The other 29 people also showed surprise at the same time and they gathered around one after another. Startled by Su Yu's look, Wu Qingzhu gently sighed after a while. There is indeed a way, but junior brother Su, you'd better mentally prepare yourself, luck may not be with you. Su Yu's eyes burned with unquenchable hope. Senior brother, there's no harm in telling me. The faction has 2 quotas for the Xuanhuan contest. The first portion is assigned to the faction's disciples. All 300 places are filled, that is the quota which you are familiar with. There is also another portion which many people do not know about. It is set aside for the disciples who are dispatched on external missions for years. For example, at the Abyss of Wutong, where 100 disciples are stationed to help the faction unearth treasures. They are busy with their mission and therefore unable to return to the faction in time to register. So, the faction set aside an additional quota of 10 places for the disciples at the Abyss of Wutong. Currently, those 10 spots are not fixed yet. The Abyss of Wutong was an ancient ruin discovered by the Lixian faction. There were some remnants still intact, and stunning treasures were often found among them. Many of the faction's cultivation techniques came from the Abyss of Wutong. To carry out the excavation there, the faction had sent hundreds of disciples to continue with the mining many years ago. Given the sheer volume of the population there, an additional quota of 10 places was allotted. But those spots are allocated for the senior brothers and sisters at the Abyss of Wutong. How can I take it? Su Yu was perplexed. Wu Qingzhu looked a little sad. Usually it would naturally not be allocated to junior brother Su. But a month ago, during the return of those disciples escorting the treasures, a few of our senior and junior brothers fell. The Abyss of Wutong needs to bring in new blood. They are heading to the faction to select new disciples at this moment. A month ago, Wu Qingzhu and the others who encountered the attack that resulted in Su Yu accepting the task of going to the Wolong snowfield to kill the murderer. With the loss of those disciples, the Abyss of Wutong obviously needed to select new disciples once again from the faction to make up for the shortage of manpower. If junior brother Su Yu is selected and becomes part of the garrison at the Abyss of Wutong, you will be eligible to vie for those 10 spots, Wu Qingzhu explained. Not only Su Yu, but the other 29 people also coveted those spots. But, immediately after, Wu Qingzhu added, Junior brother Su, I hope you will mentally prepare yourself for this selection because luck may not be with you. For this selection of the best disciples, 4 members have already been predetermined. They are the faction's elders' disciples. You should be able to understand this. They want to learn through experience for 2 months at the Abyss of Wutong to prepare for the Xuanhuan contest. So, in truth, that only leaves you with only 1 spot. The Abyss of Wutong was an ancient ruin which was rumored to be rich in spiritual energy and excellent for cultivation. Those responsible for unearthing the treasures would receive extremely generous rewards if they found any astonishing valuable objects. There was a story of a disciple who was there for 2 months and had successfully broken through to the Dragon Realm. That was the place where many faction disciples yearned to go. Unfortunately, it was controlled by the influential disciples and their relatives, so it was hard for the ordinary disciples to squeeze in. There are too many people vying for the last spot, many 5th-level Holy Kings and even a 6th-level Holy King is in contention. A 6th-level Holy King. These 4 words, like a bucket of ice water, instantly froze their impassioned hearts. Ah, are you joking? With a 6th-level Holy King around, how can we be eligible for this contest? Song Qingshan's face flushed. He felt like he was being played. Wu Qingzhu glanced at him. I'm only saying this to junior brother Su, what does it have to do with you? Song Qingshan was indignant but felt a burst of despair within. are a 6th level Holy King. With such a strong contender around, how could they compete? Su Yu was shaken. A 6th level Holy King was an unimaginable, terrifying level. How to compete with such a strong contender for the last spot? No wonder Wu Qingzhu was blunt with his words and said that luck might not be with Su Yu. This was not a maybe, but it was almost certain that it was not with Su Yu. But the most desperate person in the world was not the one with a faint hope, but the one who was complete without any hope. Being given a little hope, Su Yu could still create a miracle. He had done it before and now, he would do so again. Senior Brother Wu, please guide me. I want to participate in the assessment. The last spot belongs to me. Su Yu's gaze was firm and steady, and completely fearless. No matter how daunting the conditions were, he had crashed his way through before. He would not be afraid of an assessment. Wu Qingzhu stared blankly for quite a while. The determination in Su Yu's eyes had unexpectedly deeply pierced him in his heart. Exactly how resolute was his will to have such a determined expression in his eyes? Very well. Senior Brother will sign you up on your behalf. The assessment begins tomorrow. I hope that Junior Brother will be well prepared. Wu Qingzhu said and walked away soon after. Humph. If Su Yu can compete even at his level, what's there for me to be afraid of? Song Qingshan gnashed his teeth and said, I also want to compete. Without an expert to secretly help this time, who knows if a certain someone can still amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. Me too. Even if I can't compete for a spot, I also want to expose that certain someone's true colors. Many pairs of eyes swept past Su Yu with their old flares of jealousy. Su Yu looked calm and cupped his fists. The final spot for the Abyss of Wutong must be his. After a while, Su Yu left in a flash. Tomorrow was the challenge and he needed to think of everything he could to improve his ability. The best shortcut right now was to take a marrow cleansing elixir. Especially a top-grade marrow cleansing elixir. The power of this elixir surpassed that of 100 medium-grade marrow cleansing elixirs. The refinement process was extremely difficult, and the faction did not have many. Even within the faction, other than the core disciples, no one had ever seen it. Its specific efficacy was a legend. If he could obtain such an elixir, would Su Yu's cultivation base advance by leaps and bounds? With hope, Su Yu rushed to the faction hall of credits. The person in charge was an aged 5th-level peak Holy King. I want to exchange my credits for a marrow cleansing elixir. I have a total of 135 credits to exchange for 1 piece of a top-grade marrow cleansing elixir and 35 pieces of the medium-grade marrow cleansing elixirs. Su Yu gave his name. The old man checked. Su Yu indeed had 135 credits under his name. After he had finished checking, the old man took out the 35 pieces of the medium-grade marrow cleansing elixirs and without an expression, he deducted the 35 credits under Su Yu's name. Take 'em. From the beginning to the end, the old man did not vary his expression. Su Yu's eyebrows slightly twitched. I also want to exchange for a piece of the top-grade marrow cleansing elixir. That piece of elixir was the most important. But, the old man lightly said, a precious thing like a top-grade marrow cleansing elixir. How can it be stored here? You need to ask the faction master to acquire it and then you can exchange for it 2 days later. 2 days later, Su Yu's heart suddenly sank. Tomorrow was the assessment. He needed it to compete with a 6th-level Holy King. What was the point of having it 2 days later? But it was the faction's rule. What could he do about it? Su Yu cupped his fist in respect and left. Soon after he left, the old man's expression suddenly turned deferential as he faced the darkness behind him and bowed in respect. 4th Elder, I've acted according to your instructions and stopped him for the time being, but he's under the care of the 2nd Elder. I fear I'm unable to further put him off for more than 2 days. In the dark, the 4th Elder sighed softly. If I didn't have an urgent need for a top-grade marrow cleansing elixir, I would not have to scheme to take a junior's elixir. You need not take care of the rest of the matter, I will talk it over with him within these 2 days. The old man respectfully obeyed. The fourth elder took the urgently needed top-grade marrow cleansing elixir in his hands. His purpose for it was unknown and extremely mysterious. He did not want others to know. Therefore, it was awkward to discuss this with the other elders. Only by secretly handling the matter, he was able to seek the top-grade marrow cleansing elixir. Coincidentally, the only one who was recently eligible to exchange for the top-grade marrow cleansing elixir was Su Yu. For this reason, the fourth elder secretly instructed the old man to use a pretext to obstruct Su Yu for the time being. Taking this opportunity, the fourth elder would have to have a chat with Su Yu and promised him some benefits to secretly exchange for the top-grade marrow cleansing elixir. In fact, the old man knew clearly that if the second elder did not have Su Yu's back, perhaps the fourth elder would use tougher means. The old saying of an innocent person's only guilt of the crime laying with the fact that he possessed a treasure, had made sense here. Su Yu did not know that he had already entered the purview of the fourth elder. In the second elder's courtyard, his palm stroked the big bottle full of the marrow cleansing elixirs. He was ready to take them all at once tonight. However, when he returned to the courtyard, Mo Wu was sitting alone in the courtyard. She was a beauty alone in the dim moonlight. Her classical jade-like face with an exquisite aesthetic was framed by the faint moonlight, like her face was covered with a translucent veil which made her even more alluring. Except she had a dry expression in her eyes and was completely emotionless. She gave off an icy air. "You want to participate in the Abyss of Wutong assessment?" Mo Wu turned her head around and asked icily when she sensed Su Yu's return. "Why not?" Su Yu calmly asked in return. Mo Wu glared at Su Yu and said with composure, "You should give up immediately." "Why?" Su Yu raised his eyebrows. His eyes coldly looked back at her too. If Su Yu were to give up, who was going to save Xiana? "Because you will not be able to pass the assessment, so don't waste your time and energy. The difficulty of the assessment is greater than you can imagine." Mo Wu looked stony. "If you just want to persuade me to give up, you have said your piece. I, Su, will not keep you company here any longer." Su Yu evenly said and stepped into the house. Mo Wu's jade-like face looked icy as she casually tossed a piece of paper which flew straight to Su Yu's back. When he felt the strong wind, Su Yu turned his head and grabbed the paper. On a closer look, it was a list of names. The participant name list for the assessment. Su Yu was surprised. He hastily took a glance. Not only did it have the competitors' names from the Abyss of Wutong, but also their corresponding cultivation bases, commonly used moves and so on. The descriptions were detailed and clear. To know oneself was to know one's enemy and to emerge victorious in every battle. Such a precious intelligence was rare and remarkable to Su Yu. Su Yu's heart was slightly moved. These were naturally unnecessary to Mo Wu as she had stayed at the faction for years and knew her rival's abilities inside out. This was prepared for Su Yu. It was Mo Wu who prepared for Su Yu. When he looked up, Mo Wu had gone straight back into her room, leaving Su Yu with a lonely but beautiful image of her. Feeling grateful, he rushed to bow in respect towards the view of her back. Although Mo Wu's character was cold, her heart was warm. It belonged to a warm-hearted person with a cool exterior. On some level, she had that in common with the second elder. This pair of master and disciple was interesting. In his room, Su Yu immediately memorized all the names and information. A total of 100 people had enrolled. But the lowest cultivator was a 4th-level peak Holy King. There were plenty of 5th-level Holy Kings. The lower-tier ones were already 30 people. The upper-tier ones were already 10 people. And there were 2 peak ones. The most ridiculous thing was that there was a 6th-level Holy King who signed up. This powerful 6th-level Holy King was ranked 30th in the faction. With his abilities, he was a rare opponent within the faction. And now, Su Yu had to compete with him for the same spot. The heavy pressure made Su Yu felt a bit breathless. This competition was so intense, it was terrifying. But even if he were a god, Su Yu would still challenge him. The Divine Nine Dragon Cauldron. Chapter 152. Eyesight Assessment. After he had memorized the name list, Su Yu deeply felt an enormous pressure. He took a light breath and brought out a big bottle of azure-colored medium-grade marrow-cleansing elixirs. Was it possible to break through with all 35 pieces? With anticipation, Su Yu took one medium-grade marrow-cleansing elixir. The powerful potency imbued his limbs and bones as always. However, the cultivation base that he had imagined did not improve significantly. Feeling doubtful, Su Yu took another 4 pieces and the result was the same as before. The powerful potency, after being absorbed by his body, immediately settled into his bloodstream, but it did not drive his cultivation base to advance further. What's going on? Su Yu opened his eyes and looked bewildered. Why are the elixirs no longer effective for me? Unwilling to give up, Su Yu took another 10 pieces, and there was still completely no response. Finally, all the elixirs had been taken and their potency just settled into his bloodstream. Su Yu's expression was somewhat ugly. He examined his body for a long time and could not help but laugh bitterly. Don't tell me that there was some hidden damage left from that incident which caused my body to be immune to the elixir's potency. He had taken the Fiery Lion's Tainted Universe's miracle mineral plants and now their effect had finally emerged. Those are the elixirs which had never been purified, and the energy they contained was too intense. Once his body had adapted to the intense energy, his body had produced an immunity to the current elixir's gentle energy. Although he only needed to wait for some time before his body could return to normal, tomorrow was the Abyss of Wutong assessment. His cultivation base advancement was crucial. With a sense of helplessness and agony, Su Yu gave up his cultivation and focused on the comprehension of his cultivation techniques until dawn. The artifact control technique, a remnant volume with only one layer of the lower tier, already had early signs of successful comprehension. During the 3 days of hurrying on the road, Su Yu had seized the time to comprehend. With last night's comprehension, he finally completed the cultivation of its only tier under the right conditions. He could finally unleash the power of the Divine Ice Ring. Su Yu was rather looking forward to the Divine Artifact's specific power. But what made Su Yu quite helpless was that remnant piece of immortal level cultivation technique with 100 or more characters. So far, he had only scratched the surface of it. He still required some time to comprehend the 100 or more characters. Thump thump. There was a sound of knocking at the door. It was Mo Wu. Without even waiting for Su Yu to open the door, she said some cold words and left. The Abyss of Wutong assessment, the Inner Sanctum competition room now. The Inner Sanctum competition room. Su Yu left immediately. The competition room was the place where Inner Sanctum disciples swapped pointers and compete with one another. The area was not big, it could only accommodate 1,000 people, far less than the vast arena outside of the Sanctum which could seat 10,000 people. But the competition room had all the complete facilities. It not only provided a platform for martial force competitions, but was equipped with many props for cultivation. It far exceeded what outside of the Sanctum had. After all, this place was primed for the outstanding Inner Sanctum disciples. When Su Yu arrived, most of them were already present. Among the familiar faces were Song Qingshan, the various 5th-level holy kings from the Golden Bell Hall who were jealous of him, and Mo Wu. Somewhat feeling Su Yu's eyes on her, Mo Wu's beautiful eyes lightly glanced at Su Yu and turned back without an expression. Could it be that she was participating in the Abyss of Wutong assessment? Again, he recalled what Wu Qingzhu had said. The 4 places had already been set aside internally for the elders' disciples. Then the corners of his mouth twitched in the realization that one of the predetermined places was for Mo Wu. Soon when the enrolled competitors were all present, 2 of the elders came in separately. One of them was 3rd elder whom he had met and the other was an unfamiliar old man. The 4th elder, he is the one who watches over the Abyss of Wutong. Why is he back here especially for the selection of qualified disciples? Whispers of excitement filled the room. The 4th elder, Su Yu secretly observed him. He was about 60-something years old and stern-looking with a square head with big ears. Though he was old, his back was straight as a ramrod and he was unmoving like a mountain, dignified and solemn. Since everyone is here, then the assessment shall begin. The fourth elder spoke coolly as he looked around. As the third elder already knew about the Empire of Darkness attack on the Abyss of Wutong's disciples, it was well within reason that he would assist the fourth elder at this moment to select the suitable disciples to be stationed at the Abyss of Wutong. The first round of assessment is the contest of movement techniques. Su Yu's eyebrows were slightly raised. Was the quota not decided through duels? Looking at the crowd again, everyone's face registered surprise. The Abyss of Wutong has many dangers. In case of emergencies and crises, movement techniques are the basis for saving your lives. Therefore, the first round of assessment is based on movement techniques. The fourth elder solemnly said, the assessment method is such, everyone will fly a circle around the inner sanctum fallen star. The first 50 to arrive can enter the next round. The rest will be eliminated. The inner sanctum, which was surrounded by 17 fallen stars, was the largest fallen star with a perimeter of 10 miles. Based on the speed of a 4th level Holy King, a loop was around 10 minutes. A 5th level Holy King needed about half that time. 1 6th level Holy King, 42 5th level Holy Kings, and 57 4th level Holy Kings were present. Obviously, all the 4th level Holy Kings would be eliminated. Among the 4th level Holy Kings, only those with excellent movement techniques could possibly advance to the next round. The time required is within 10 minutes. Ready, get set, go. Upon the 4th elder's command, all 100 people flew out and maximized their movement techniques to make haste with lightning speed. Su Yu's spiritual energetic wings unfolded, he soared to a high altitude and was ready to transform his wings into the icy divine wings. Whoosh! A gale hit and abruptly pushed Su Yu to one side. Caught off guard, he almost stumbled and took a fall. Looking over with a frown, it was Song Qingshan and several of the malicious 5th level Holy Kings. They intentionally used their 5th level Holy King's formidable spiritual energy to push Su Yu aside. Isn't that Su Yu who could wipe out a 5th level Holy King? You must feel really aggrieved not to be in the first place for such a powerful person like you. A 5th level Holy King coolly spoke with a slightly mocking smile. How about we give way a little? That way you won't be left behind by us, otherwise, your secret expert helper will give us trouble. Su Yu turned a deaf ear to them, maintained his spiritual energetic wing as he unhurriedly flew close to a group of 4th level Holy Kings. Song Qingshan looked down his nose at him, gave him a quick glance and sneered. Let's wait to fly again, we better behave ourselves in front of a powerful killer of a 5th level Holy King and follow behind him. The surrounding 5th level Holy Kings, with deeply mocking smiles on their lips, stood coolly with their arms folded in front of them. They all had taunting looks in their eyes. They waited and thought it would be wonderful to see Su Yu's expression when they easily overtook him. Without the second elder's protection, what could a mere 4th level Holy King like Su Yu do? When he clocked that Su Yu had already flown several hundred meters, Song Qingshan's lips curled into a sneer, he activated the spiritual energy on his back, and his feathered wings suddenly fanned out. Whoosh! His blurred figure streaked across the sky with an astonishing speed, he was closing in. With looks of relish, the other 5th level Holy Kings also began to chase. But, just when they thought they could amuse themselves and get ready to overtake him one by one, they were caught off guard. The leisurely Su Yu suddenly put away his spiritual energetic wings. A pair of icy light wings unexpectedly emerged from his back. The lifelike feathers of his wings were like a bird's and they produced gusts of cold air which swept into a powerful gale. He had cultivated the icy divine wings to the stage 3 top class, which was the first formation of the icy divine wings. He had been cultivated it to the peak level, his current speed surpassed others of the same realm which was just under that of a 5th level Holy King, so the disparity was not great. After switching to the icy divine wings, Su Yu's speed soared. He suddenly pierced through the sky in a blur with the speed of light. Zigzagging between the 4th level Holy Kings, he overtook them all. Ah, he's so fast. Isn't that 4th level lower tier Holy King, Su Yu? What type of amazing movement technique is that? He's as fast as the 5th-level Holy Kings. A group of 4th-level Holy Kings watched Su Yu, entranced. Song Qingshan's smear froze. He could not believe his eyes. Su Yu's movement technique speed was not that much weaker than his. It was just a moment of distraction and Su Yu had already disappeared from his line of vision. Song Qingshan's face changed colors. He gnashed his teeth and used all his energy to give chase. The rest of the 5th-level Holy Kings' expressions also frozen as they were trying their best to catch up. At this time, all of them felt their faces burned. They were supposed to have some fun with Su Yu and made sure to wait till he flew a certain distance before they slowly overtook him. Who would have thought that Su Yu had withheld such an astonishing movement technique? Whoosh! A group of people swiftly circled the inner sanctum and gave chase. The more Song Qingshan accelerated, the uglier his expression became. Su Yu's movement technique was only a little weaker than his, to the extent that he was unable to close a distance of a few hundred feet at all. Finally, they returned to the competition room after they had completed the loop. The 4th Elder and 3rd Elder stood at the competition room entrance and registered each name. The 6th-level Holy King and 35 5th-level Holy Kings have returned. It seems the remaining 7 5th-level Holy Kings have inadequate movement techniques. The 3rd Elder secretly frowned. The 4th Elder looked solemn. No hurry, they should be the next batch of returnees, no one can be faster than them. Whoosh! He had not finished speaking before a thin figure was the first to fly in. Both elders were shocked. Swish! The 7 5th-level Holy Kings finally caught up and were breathless. The 3rd Elder looked astonished. He appraised Su Yu. He was even faster than a 5th-level Holy King. His movement technique was truly extraordinary. The 4th Elder was slightly surprised. He turned his gaze and recorded Su Yu's ranking. When his gaze swept over Song Qingshan and the others, he lightly snorted. You can't even hold a candle to a 4th-level Holy King. You all live like princes for too long. Better reflect upon yourselves. Song Qingshan and the others flushed. They were unable to raise their heads. Especially the 5th-level Holy Kings who had returned first. Many of them noticed Song Qingshan and the others purposely targeted Su Yu. They were whispering and snickering among themselves right now. They wanted to humiliate Su Yu, instead they ended up being ridiculed by Su Yu. They shot themselves in the foot a bit, huh? But speaking of which, Su Yu was quite astonishing. His movement technique was unimaginably close to a 5th-level Holy King. Song Qingshan and the others clenched their fists and were full of anger at Su Yu. Gradually, everyone flew back. The 50 people who had returned first were qualified. The remaining 50 sadly exited the competition. Well, you 50 competitors will advance to the next round of assessment. This round is the assessment of your eyesight. The Abyss of Wutong is perennially pitch dark, you can't even see your fingers in front of you. You will require a powerful visual strength, so this round is the assessment of your eyesight. The rule of this assessment goes like this: I am going to turn the room into a pitch black state, and place 50 pieces of black paper in the room. Your task is to imbue both your pupils with your spiritual energy till you have the ability to see in the dark to find these pieces of black paper. Only 25 people will be retained from this round. Moreover, each piece of black paper that you find will be counted as 1 point and the points will be accumulated for the next round of assessment. The final score will determine which 5 individuals will remain. Therefore, you must take this seriously. Every piece of black paper that you find means one more bit of hope to qualify. With these words, the 4th Elder glanced at the 3rd Elder, and they completely wrapped up the competition room tightly with some black cloth that they had found. Instantly, the room was pitch dark. It was even hard to see one's fingers. When they used their spiritual energy to enhance their eyesight, they could make out indistinct figures. One's specific visual ability was based on the strength of one's spiritual energy as well as their delicate control of one's spiritual energy. It varied from person to person. Often, those with solid foundation had more sophisticated control of their visual abilities. Su Yu stood with his arms folded. His pair of crystalline pupils exuded a faint light from deep within. He smiled deeply. Eyesight assessment. The Divine Nine Dragon Cauldron. Chapter 153. The final assessment. The pitch-black environment was no different from daylight to Su Yu. Swish. Suddenly, he could hear faint movements. Su Yu glanced over from the corner of his eyes and saw the fourth elder quietly slip Mo Wu and the other four disciples, each a piece of the black paper in the dark. The fourth elder had thought no one would detect this and did not realize that Su Yu saw everything. So, was this considered predetermination? Su Yu felt somewhat powerless. Then, the fourth elder just took out a large piece of black paper, tore it to pieces, and scattered the pieces to every corner of the competition room. The assessment starts now. At his command, the 50 contenders immediately activated their spiritual energy in their pupils to see in the dark. While they were still trying hard to adjust their vision, Su Yu was already darting around the competition room, swift as lightning. He was able to grab a piece of the black paper at every pause. In the blink of an eye, Su Yu obtained more than 5 pieces of the black paper. How dare you snatch from me? Just at this moment, a soft hum drifted over in the dark. A faintly discernible terrible force slowly dispersed. This man was the only 6th-level Holy King, Tang Yuxuan. After much effort, he had just adjusted his vision, when he found a dark figure taking away a piece of the black paper at his feet, and he was upset. But there was not enough time to bicker with Su Yu. With this assessment, the black paper pieces affected the total score. The odds of success increased as one more piece was grabbed. Whoosh! While Su Yu was swiftly in action, Mo Wu also began to grab. Her beautiful eyes shot a quick glance at Su Yu in astonishment. She had found out that Su Yu had already started seizing the black paper pieces at the beginning. While the other Holy Kings were still struggling to activate their spiritual energy, Su Yu had treated the darkness like it was nothing. Was his eyesight really that good? Did he not even have to use his spiritual energy? Mo Wu was slightly stunned. While the three of them were ransacking the room, everyone else had just adjusted their visions well enough at this time and adapted to the dark environment. When they started looking for the black paper pieces, those pieces were already being plundered by more than half. There was a rush of pillaging. Some people were happy and some were worried. A moment later, the black veil outside the room was taken off. The assessment was over. Those who did not get any black paper pieces, you're eliminated. The fourth elder announced without any expression. Crashing. In that instant, out of the 50 contenders, 30 people left and only 20 contenders remained. The original plan was to eliminate only 25 people, and now 30 people were eliminated in one shot, more than what the fourth elder and third elder had estimated. What's going on? The third elder was baffled. The fourth elder's eyes flashed. Take out your black paper pieces to calculate your scores. After a moment, he said, Song Qingshan, 1 piece, 1 point. Tang Yuxuan, 6 pieces, 6 points. Mo Wu, 8 pieces, 8 points. These three had seized a total of 15 pieces, no wonder so many people were eliminated. However, what happened next stiffened the expressions of the third elder and fourth elder at the same time. Su Yu, 19 pieces. Looking at the thick pile of the black paper pieces in Su Yu's hands, everyone was shocked. Mo Wu was stunned. Even if he could see in the dark, he should not be this powerful. Unless in addition to being able to see in the dark, his eyesight was extremely sharp, and he was able to easily inspect every nook and corner. His pile of the black paper pieces alone was nearly more than everyone's total. After a long while, the four elder then announced, Su Yu, 19 points. And now the final assessment. The comprehensive ability competition. In short, duels. Finally, a segment for duels. There are many great dangers at the Abyss of Wutong. If your ability is not good, there's no point in you going. The 20 of you will have duels with each other to vie for the spots. You get 5 points each time you defeat one person. Finally, only the 5 contenders with the highest scores will remain. These 5 people will then become members of the Abyss of Wutong. The fourth elder solemnly announced. Everyone was excited. The final battle had begun at last. Apart from Mo Wu and the disciples who were already predetermined, Tang Yuxuan, the superior 6th-level Holy King, was the only target they needed to defeat. Su Yu clenched his fists. The only way to save Xianna was right in front of his eyes. Tang Yuxuan was the biggest obstacle ahead of him. Before you start, you can rest a little for only an hour and prepare. The 4th elder swept his gaze towards Su Yu. You're Su Yu. With regards to your performance just now, I have something to ask you. Come with me. Su Yu was slightly stumped. Could it be his performance just now was so exceptional that it aroused his suspicion? On the other side, Song Qingshan felt even more pressure and his eyes burned with jealousy. Senior brother Song, don't tell me because this kid performed so well just now that he was lucky enough to catch the 4th elder's eye. Is he going to give him the final spot by default? I too have this worry. After all, the 2nd elder has Su Yu's back. Song Qingshan's gaze was direct and hard. There was deep resentment and indignation. Humph. It's still too early. Even if it's by default, he must also have the ability to defeat us. With all the 5th-level Holy Kings present, if Su Yu was unable to defeat him and pass this round, how could it be by default? It was sparsely populated outside the building. The 4th elder smiled and said, Su Yu, you have performed well. As an elder, I intend to recommend you into the Abyss of Wutong. Su Yu was stunned, but he quickly regained his composure. Thank you, 4th elder, for your generous favor, but I'm not sure what does 4th elder have in mind. It's amazing how your intelligence is beyond someone of your age. The 4th elder's high praise was from his heart. Su Yu looked only about 15 years old, but his wisdom and intelligence were incomparable and his quick reactions greatly surprised him. He had thought that he had to waste his breath to explain. However, Su Yu had understood immediately. I, the elder, am relieved that you understand. I will give you a spot to the Abyss of Wutong and as an exchange, I hope you can secretly procure a top-grade marrow cleansing elixir for me. This matter needs to be kept a secret. Also, after you enter the Abyss of Wutong, I will secretly give you a pointer or two as an elder. Su Yu's heart slightly sank. Did he want the top-grade marrow cleansing elixir? This elixir was hard to come by. It was unlikely that Su Yu would have the chance to acquire one again. The temporary emergency mission only happened once a year. And it was not possible for him to take the credit every time. The Xuanhuan contest was close at hand and it could be said that the top-grade marrow cleansing elixir was the pivotal elixir for Su Yu to enhance his ability. But, if he did not agree, his hope of winning for this assessment would be slim. Once he had offended the 4th elder, even if he did enter the Abyss of Wutong, he might overtly or covertly receive unfair treatment. Although, according to the projected schedule, the Abyss of Wutong was about to rotate to the 3rd elder for him to oversee. But even it was one day in the Abyss of Wutong, the 4th elder would still have the authority to deal with Su Yu. Su Yu was suddenly caught in a dilemma. There's no hurry to answer right this moment, you can think about it a little more. If you agree, give me a signal using your eyes, the 4th elder said warmly and looked around watchfully before he went in without an expression on his face. But, before he left, he looked gloomy for a moment. He had originally thought he had Su Yu in the bag, but Su Yu actually had some resistance. Humph. Just because he is backed by that ghost-faced hag, does he think he can somehow rely on her support? The 4th elder looked cold and gloomy. Su Yu silently sighed. He could sense that the 4th elder was genial on the surface, but he was already angry. If he did not agree, it would be difficult to predict the consequences. It was just that the Xuanhuan contest was imminent, and Xianna. Gnashing his teeth, Su Yu headed back to the competition room. The duel segment began. The duel follows the rules of the ring. The winner is entitled to challenge the next opponent. And after 5 duels, there will be a short break. With these words, the 4th elder looked at Su Yu meaningfully. The first ring defender is Ma Feiming. The 4th elder appointed a ring defender. Ma Feiming, around 23 years old, was a 5th-level lower-tier Holy King and had his breakthrough half a month ago. Racing up to the ring, Ma Feiming looked around. When his gaze fell on Song Qingshan, in a flash, his finger immediately pointed to Song Qingshan. Senior brother Song, come up for a fight. Senior brother Song, this kid Ma Fiming still bears a grudge against you. The disciple beside Song Qingshan had a smirk on his face. Previously, when Ma Fiming was at the 4th level peak, he had accompanied Song Qingshan on an external assignment. They had found a piece of spiritual treasure in the mountains. In the end, it was commandeered by Song Qingshan. After handing it over to the faction, Song Qingshan received ample rewards and advanced his cultivation base. Due to this, Ma Fiming was disgruntled, but he had no opportunity to take revenge. Until today, now he could challenge him openly and above board. Song Qingshan half smiled. A grudge? Who? Him. The one who has just broken through to the 5th level Holy King. What can he do to me? Swish. Leaping onto the ring, Song Qingshan stood with his arms folded and icily glared. Ma Fiming, you finally had some progress and dare to challenge me now. Under his opponent's glare, Ma Fiming felt a little dread. After all, when he was still a 4th level Holy King, Song Qingshan was already a veteran 5th level Holy King and had carried out countless dangerous assignments. He was impressively famed for his fighting prowess. But when he recalled the humiliation he had suffered, he remembered his grudge. Song Qingshan, you went too far on that day, so don't blame me being tough. I, Ma Fiming, am no longer the same as before. You'd better take me seriously. Let me see, you're pretty confident, but you overestimate yourself. Song Qingshan put down his arms with purpose. Ma Fiming growled and immediately made his move. 7 stars attack. Ma Fiming roared and used a legacy-level cultivation technique. He had impressively reached the stage 1 upper class. Coupled with his 5th level Holy King cultivation base, his power was unfathomable. When he took a step, he moved so swiftly that he was a blur. After taking 7 steps, his 7 movements continuously emerged in quick blurs. What made his 7 endless-looking steps imposing were, his movements were all very focused and deliberately created quick blurs. Each of his quick blurs contained a strong power. Destroy. After his 7 steps, Ma Fiming made a feint to move closer and he growled. Whoosh. There were clearly 7 quick blurs before, but at this moment he looked like his real body was besieging Song Qingshan from all 7 directions at the same time. There were 7 steps, 7 stars, and 7 quick blurs. He was using the formation of all the stars surrounding the moon to besiege Song Qingshan. This was his 7 stars attack. Boom. His 7 quick blurs were all airtight formations and impossible to guard against. However, Song Qingshan looked calm. His 7 stars came attacking in quick blurs, yet Song Qingshan had an indifferent smile on his lips as he just lightly extended his finger. Barren Mountain Fingerprint. Clearly, it was an ordinary point of his finger. It felt like the mountains and rivers were eradicated. A heart-palpitating, deathly stillness encircled his fingertip. Surges of grey draft flowed out with a faint life-devouring force. The 3rd elder nodded slightly. That's right. This remnant volume of the Barren Mountain Fingerprint was cultivated by him to the stage 1 top class not too far off from stage 2. The 4th elder lightly nodded. It's indeed original. Even if they are not dead, those with weak physiques will be put into a coma by the grey drafts of life-devouring force. Mo Wu and several others also secretly nodded. Among the 5th level lower-tier Holy Kings, Song Qingshan was truly the finest competitor. Boom. His finger swept across and the grey draft rolled out in all directions. Pop. The 7 quick blurs were unexpectedly crushed. Ah. At the same time, Ma Fiming suffered a heavy physical blow. With a blood-curdling screech, he was flung back on the spot, smashed under the ring, and nearly fainted. Horror and loathing filled his eyes. With so much hard work for so long, he still could not defeat Song Qingshan. Retracting his finger, Song Qingshan towered above and said with disdain. Crawl back to the hole you came from to cultivate a few more years. Otherwise, you'll always be defeated by me. You. Ma Fiming was furious, but in the end, his ability was inferior to him, so he could only swallow his humiliation and leave. Soon after, Song Qingshan's cold eyes fixed on Su Yu and the corners of his mouth cracked a heart-palpitating grin. Su Yu, it's your turn. Let me see how you were able to kill a 5th-level Holy King. Everyone's eyes shot towards Su Yu, who was the only 4th-level Holy King. Is it his turn? I wonder if that expert will suddenly pop up to defeat Song Qingshan. Finally, are his true colors going to be exposed? This is interesting. Let's see how senior brother Song is going to torture and defeat him. That day he was clearly secretly helped by an expert, but he had waited for a junior brother to die before showing himself to take advantage of the situation. Such a person should have encountered today's fate a long time ago. I hope senior brother Song will show no mercy. Even though he sensed all the sharp looks, Su Yu looked calm as he leaped onto the ring in a step. Let's begin. Since you want to experience the power of how I had killed a 5th-level Holy King, I'll grant your wish. Su Yu spoke evenly and slowly extended his forefinger. The Divine Nine Dragon Cauldron. Chapter 154. Flinging a Dead Dog. Song Qingshan stood with his arms folded and looked unruffled. Please be sure to let this senior brother open his eyes. However, his speech spontaneously came to an end. His composed look gradually vanished and was replaced with disbelief. Aha! A ball of light stemmed from Su Yu's fingertips. It was a deep green color mixed with a light azure color, and it formed a ball of gentle bluish-green glimmer. This glimmer of light floated and drifted. When seen, the flame was not brilliant in the size of a thumb. No, it was an ice flame. An ice flame of a deep green and azure fusion. Though it was weak, it emitted a scalp-numbing deadly chill. Crack! The sound of forming icicles traveled around the ring. With Su Yu in the center, the chill froze everything. The blue stone ring was instantly covered with ice. Unable to withstand the extreme chill, the ring, which had never been cracked before by the various fights, had densely packed cracks unexpectedly appearing. The 4th elder looked bewildered. This is... The 3rd elder, who saw Su Yu made his move on that day, was deeply surprised. That's the glazed ice flame. He had actually cultivated it to stage 1 upper class. What? The glazed ice flame can be called the most powerful of all the legacy techniques, and he has cultivated it to stage 1 upper class. An individual with an excellent powerful insight requires at least 10 years to comprehend the lower class and 20 years and above for the upper class. He only entered the Sanctum a few months ago, and he could comprehend the stage 1 upper class. He's inhuman. Mo Wu's pretty eyes were set with deep disbelief. Was Su Yu's powerful insight this terrifying? The smiles of the 5th-level Holy Kings, who sat and waited for Su Yu to be taught a lesson, froze. Even beside the ring, they were deeply gripped by that terrible chill. What type of ice-cold flame had such a horrifying power? On the ring, 10 feet away from Su Yu, Song Qingshan's body was coated with a thin layer of mist which gradually transformed into ice. His relaxed enfolded arms had long since been unconsciously put down and he was commanding his spiritual energy to drive out the chill. Just the mere dispersing of the chill was already so terrifying if that ice flame had blasted his body. Song Qingshan's expression had an unprecedented change. An illusion of death shaded his heart. A bad feeling bubbled up within, and at that moment, he had already believed that the person who chopped and killed the snow lion was probably Su Yu himself. From start to finish, no one had helped Su Yu. It was the result of his own efforts. He and those other 5th-level Holy Kings were just jealous and envious. It was their malicious speculation and slander. But, even if he was wavering on the inside, Song Qingshan also had no way to retreat. Moreover, that flame was too weak. It just appeared to be frightening. Its true power might not necessarily be strong. Trickster. Song Qingshan composed himself and calmed down in the face of danger. Barren mountain fingerprint. Growling. A rolling grey draft flowed out from Song Qingshan's finger. That life-devouring, obscure, and sinister power was heart-palpitating. It was the same move that defeated Ma Feiming, also a 5th-level Holy King, in one fell swoop. Swish. Song Qingshan attacked first. He moved like lightning. His one step spanned a distance of 20 feet. His 10-foot gap was closed in a blink of an eye. A strong wind, mixed with the grey draft, struck and it stirred up Su Yu's damaged clothes. His silver hair fluttered and swept over his handsome and calm countenance. His pair of placid eyes did not waver at all. Su Yu simply stepped forward once. Glazed ice flame. Su Yu coolly spat out the words. The weak ice flame on his fingertip, like a candle in the wind, was about to go out. But in that instant, his two fingers touched. Aha! The weak ice flame that clearly was the size of a thumb, had instantly erupted 100-fold. It was like a spark that suddenly became the size of a house. Abrupt and fierce, it was powerful and dreadful. It contained an infinite chill, like a volcano dormant for a long time that had finally erupted. Crack! Crack! The infinite chill came and froze everything in the surrounding. The fifth-level holy kings who were closer to the ring swiftly stepped back with their expressions suddenly much changed. Those who hesitated a little were covered with ice, they were almost frozen on the spot. The third elder and fourth elder had to raise their voices to warn everyone. Everyone, step back. Crash. The crowd moved like a tide and scattered in retreat. They stared in disbelief at that volcanic eruption of ice. Not only the ring, but the entire competition room was plunged into a world of ice and snow. Snow-white icicles thickly covered the competition room. The roof had icicles, the ground was covered in a layer of thick ice. The stands had become ice sculptures and the martial arts props were frozen. The chilling cold air transformed this place into an ice sculpture in that instant. Even breathing in the cold air felt unbearably cold to one's body and soul. The source of all these was even more chillingly astounding. That high, blazing ice flame was burning with a rumble. Its bluish-green color was magnificent and wonderful. It radiated the beauty of ice. Su Yu stood within the 60-high ice flame as if he dominated all the cold ice in the world like its supreme ruler. In front of him, an ice sculpture preserved its attack stance. His eyes, expression, and posture were all preserved in the freeze-frame state. Even his grey draft was frozen. It was like he was frozen in space and time. Su Yu slowly put down his finger. His one finger could have easily killed Song Qingshan, but he would have little satisfaction from it. That day inside the snow lion's body, Su Yu had gobbled up a large amount of the snow lion blue icy chill and he had finally advanced the glazed ice flame to stage 1 upper class. The strength of the most powerful legacy-level cultivation technique was enough to make Su Yu possess the power to kill a 5th-level holy king. He was so strong that even Li Xiaoyu promptly decided to escape and was visibly afraid of his cultivation technique. Su Yu coolly gazed at the frozen Song Qingshan and trampled on him with one foot. Crack! When the icicles shattered, Song Qingshan shook uncontrollably from head to toe. His skin had turned blue in a blink of an eye, his whole body was stiffly lying on the ground, and he looked at Su Yu in fear. He had actually lost in one move. No, he was almost killed in one move. If this was a death match, he would have been easily killed by Su Yu long ago. For Su Yu to attain his long line of credits, it was not due to the second elder's assistance but his own. He possessed the ability to kill a 5th-level holy king. Su Yu lightly glanced at him and slightly shook his head. This was what you were intensely proud of, the ability to bully and humiliate others. How disappointing. Song Qingshan's face turned red, he was utterly humiliated. However, due to his fear of being shocked and killed by a snap of Su Yu's fingers, he dared not refute Su Yu. He lowered his head and left in a fluster. The 4th elder looked deeply appalled. Is the glazed ice flame so formidable? In terms of its power, it has gone beyond the standard stage 1 top class of a legacy-level cultivation technique, it's much closer to stage 2. This matter needs to be reported to the faction master. The evaluation of the formidable power of the glazed ice flame may perhaps have been too low. Its power is beyond any imagination. The 3rd elder's gaze was bright. Everyone in the faction was aware of the existence of the glazed ice flame. But no one was willing to spend decades to cultivate a remnant volume. And now for the first time, Su Yu had revealed its formidable power, stunned the elders into acknowledging it and made them realize the unprecedented importance of this volume of legacy-level cultivation technique. On the ring, it was Su Yu's turn to defend the ring. 2 duels had already completed, so Su Yu could still challenge 3 people. Su Yu ignored all the shocked looks, raised his hand and pointed towards a 5th-level lower-tier Holy King. This 5th-level Holy King was the type of person who was full of slander and deliberately waited for the other disciples to destroy Su Yu before he would take advantage of the situation. Since this was a duel segment, in that case he was going to challenge him first. "You, come up." The targeted 5th-level Holy King gave his body a shake and took a hard swallow. Among the 5th-level Holy Kings, Song Qingchen, who was the best, had already been badly defeated. What chance did they have? But, even if he felt fearful, he had no other choice but to step onto the ring. "Su, junior brother Su, I am Pu Nan. The purpose of this duel is to learn from each other. I hope we can both somewhat exercise some restraint, so as not to damage our good relationship." This 5th-level Holy King said fearfully as he braced himself. Pu Nan's face was slightly flushed. Not so long ago, Su Yu was someone who was unable to withstand a single blow in his eyes. And now, he had to lower himself to beseech Su Yu to give him a break. "Sure," Su Yu said indifferently. His reply slightly relieved Pu Nan. "Many thanks." Pu Nan cupped his fists and then grimly waited. Meteor kick. Pu Nan roared and was the first to attack. With his long strides, he was extremely fast. Everyone could only see a blur and was unable to tell where his body was. At the same time, a dim starlight surrounded Pu Nan, making it more difficult to discern what was real. In an instant, Pu Nan attacked. Boom! His leg struck, and he was now fighting with Su Yu. Glazed ice flame. However, Su Yu only coolly ignited a weak ice flame. It was not erupted at all. He simply touched the arch of Pu Nan's foot. Crack. But even so, Pu Nan stiffened from head to toe and his whole body froze. He wanted to strike with his leg, instead he was frozen on the spot. Seeing how he was about to stumble and fall, Su Yu reached out with his hand and grabbed Pu Nan's calf at this time. "Thank you, junior brother Su." Pu Nan looked grateful that Su Yu had stayed his hand. However, just as he was speaking, he felt something was not right. Su Yu had grabbed his calf and unexpectedly swung him into midair. It was as if Su Yu was holding onto a stick and swinging it in his hand. "Junior brother Su, what are you doing?" Pu Nan was appalled to be up in the air. But Su Yu did not reply. With a flick of his wrist, he grabbed Pu Nan's calf and slammed him to the ground with a loud bang. Bang! Plop! Pu Nan's forehead was covered with blood, several of his teeth were knocked loose and his internal organs quaked. He belched out his fractured teeth mingled with his blood at the same time. Pu Nan was upset by the severe pain, making him ashamed and furious. He turned his head and yelled, "You!" However, just as he spoke, Su Yu once again swung up his whole body, and then ferociously smacked him on top of the bluestone floor. It was followed by another blow. On the ringside, everyone was dumbfounded. Su Yu swung Pu Nan around in the air like he was swinging a dead dog. He then smacked him down on the ground. It was one round after another until Pu Nan was all covered in blood and completely unconscious. At this point, Su Yu finally stayed his hand and threw him out of the ring like he had flung a dead dog. Bang! The unconscious Pu Nan was like a dead dog, which made everyone gasp. Su Yu was so ruthless. People need to be responsible for their words. People who fabricate stories and slander their dead peers to attack others deserve to be severely punished. Su Yu said coldly. Soon after, Su Yu's eyes swept across and fell on a second 5th-level Holy King. "You, come up." Su Yu pointed to a distance. This person had previously mocked him and wanted to expose Su Yu's true colors. Now, Su Yu had indeed revealed his true colors. Nevertheless, what he revealed was a ruthless and terrifying ability. I think, the one who was targeted had jumped onto the ring, trembling with fear. He cupped his fists and was ready to concede. Although a spot for the Abyss of Wutong was incomparably valuable, Pu Nan was still lying on the ground like a dead dog. But He had not finished speaking when a gust of strong wind struck. Shockingly, it was Su Yu who took advantage of the moment to come closer. Glazed ice flame. Ah. Then, Su Yu did the same thing, picked up his body and flung him up. Bang. 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 Everyone's expression slightly changed as Su Yu once again did the same, fling the dead dog, routine with ease. It hit 3 times, his body was covered in blood, and like a dead dog, he threw him to the side of Punan. Compared to Punan, Su Yu did stay his hand and did not cause him to be unconscious. But he was all covered with blood and vexed with unparalleled shame. I had already conceded defeat. Why did you still make your move? Su Yu retorted. Did you concede? When was this? Why didn't I know? Pooh. He was so angry that he coughed up another mouthful of blood. He did not even finish his words before he had already been deliberately interrupted by Su Yu. You did not speak clearly. How was I to know that you had conceded? Su Yu coolly glanced at him, and pointed to his last opponent. You. Come up. I give up. I'm not participating in the Abyss of Wutong assessment. The last man had looked deathly white and was trembling. He fled on the spot with a scream. 5 duels had passed with Su Yu winning 4 in a row. He was awarded 20 points. During the break, Su Yu was once again summoned by the 4th elder to speak alone amidst everyone's envy. So, have you thought it over? You only have one chance. The 4th elder's eyes are shining brightly with his strong desire to get hold of the top-grade marrow cleansing elixir no matter what. Feeling slightly threatened, Su Yu's heart felt heavy. If he did not give in, he was afraid that it would be difficult to pass the assessment. Even if he had passed, he would also suffer harsh treatment. Taking a deep breath, Su Yu's eyes flashed. I've thought it over. Tell me. The 4th elder looked calm, yet his eyes projected an imposing power. The Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron. Chapter 155, The Ultimate Clash. I cannot agree. Su Yu was clear and concise. He spoke from his heart. The 4th elder was startled. Su Yu had indeed refused. Was the condition that I, this old and revered man, offered, not sincere enough? The 4th elder calmly asked. The Abyss of Wutong's predetermined spot and the additional guidance, though the information would not be as good as the top-grade marrow cleansing elixir in terms of value, it was also not too far off. Su Yu tactfully refused. This elder's offer was hard to come by. But it's just that this disciple is unable to let go of the elixir. Why? The 4th elder had a cold glint deep in his eyes, which was a warning sign of his impending anger. This disciple is in urgent need of a breakthrough and the top-grade marrow cleansing elixir is crucial for this disciple, Su Yu helplessly sighed. He couldn't give up the elixir. Would the 4th elder even honor his promise? The so-called guidance lacked a precise explanation. Having received such a reply, the 4th elder's eyes gradually narrowed. He slowly nodded after a long while. Well, I understand. You can go back. After waiting for Su Yu to leave, the 4th elder's face became gloomy. I have tried to be nice and you refused. Maybe you prefer the hard way. At this point, the break was over. The duel segment continues. 5 matches had already been completed and the ring defender will be changed. Another 5 duels start again. It's now your turn. The 4th elder appeared to have randomly chosen a 5th level holy king. But everyone knew in their hearts that this person named Yang Fan was one of the 4 predetermined disciples. He was the 4th elder's young disciple. Among the 4 predetermined disciples, his ability was the weakest. Therefore, the 4th elder selected him to get on the ring first, to let him have the chance to challenge the remaining 5th level lower tier holy kings and win a few more duels to gain enough points. Of all the competitors present, apart from Su Yu, who was a 4th level holy king, there were 4 5th level lower tier holy kings. They were enough for Yang Fan to obtain 5 consecutive points. If Yang Fan could defeat his opponent in the final duel, he could rely on his score to successfully pass and advance. Fierce and imposing, Yang Fan was of a medium stature with messy hair. Both his eyes were bright and full of expression, they occasionally shone with an astonishing gleam. He was a strong, powerful presence as he stood tall and towering on the ring. Zhang Liangli, come up. Yang Fan pointed to a female 5th-level lower-tier holy king of that name. Swish. The woman, who was over 30 years old with attractive looks, though she was already a married woman. Her features were natural and without makeup. Her gaze was crystal clear. She was virtuous and respectable. Looking at Yang Fan, Zhang Liangli's brows slightly creased. She felt a little helpless and worried. She was a good-looking woman and her husband's ability was merely that of a 4th-level peak holy king. With no one to rely on, her beauty was inevitably lusted after in the faction. One admirer was Yang Fan. His ability was strong, he was the 4th elder's second disciple. His repeated harassment of her did not work. He had secretly threatened and tried to coerce her into submission. A month ago, her husband was challenged to a fight and was seriously injured. He was still bedridden to this day. All of these incidents were secretly instigated by Yang Fan. If she still did not submit to his wishes, obey him, and satisfy his demands, the married couple's days would become even more difficult. Zhang Liangli was already wavering and struggling within, but she was worried that once Yang Fan had a taste of her sweetness, he would become greedy and want more from her. Then she would never escape his clutches and be reduced into his plaything in the future. Now, Yang Fan had found a chance to directly challenge her, and to seize the opportunity to beat her. Senior Sister Zhang, make your move. Yang Fan looked severe, only his eyes were burning with passion and scorn. Zhang Liangli took a light breath and with no other choice, she made her move. It was one thing for her ability to be less than Yang Fan, but with the 4th elder watching ringside too, how would she dare to strike with a heavy blow? Heartless fallen petals. Zhang Liangli's lovely figure gracefully danced and twirled, like a spinning flower. A pink mist began to envelop and wrap her body with a charming veil. She looked like a spring flower. But the pink mist contained a power that made people drowsy. Su Yu looked surprised. Zhang Liangli's cultivation technique was closer to the auxiliary type. When it was paired with someone else's, it would achieve a multiplier effect. Yang Fan slightly smirked. Senior Sister Zhang's heartless fallen petals has matured and become more skilled. Thud, thud. With a mocking smile, Yang Fan took a few steps back to avoid being hit. In this way, he would not get too close to Zhang Liangli. However, Yang Fan's teasing smile deepened. Unfortunately, I'm destined to be the bane of your existence. Only Zhang Liangli could understand the hidden meaning in his words. And that was if he could not get Zhang Liangli, he would never rest. At the same time, there was another meaning. And that was, he could restrict her cultivation technique. Swish. Yang Fan activated his spiritual energy and concentrated it within his eyes. Instantly, his eyes changed from his ordinary dark color and suddenly to a scarlet color. Waves of gleaming light which also looked like a burning flame circulated within his eyes. Divine pupils flames. Yang Fan lightly chuckled. Pop. Suddenly 2 small beams of scarlet flames blasted out from within his eyes. The speed was comparable to a light beam. When Zhang Liangli became aware that something was wrong, it was a little too late. The beams of scarlet flames had already passed through the powder mist and had struck her chest and abdomen. Ah! Crying out in pain, Zhang Liangli was so badly hit by the 2 seemingly weak flames that she vomited blood and flew backward. She was hurled exactly towards Su Yu beside the ring. With a calm expression, Su Yu's hands reached out and caught Zhang Liangli so he could avoid being hit by her body as well. Feeling his strength behind her, Zhang Liangli lifted her eyes and mournfully smiled. Thank you, junior brother Su. On the ring, Yang Fan saw the 2 people in close contact and his eyes turned cold. Boy, mind your own business. Zhang Liangli belonged to him, he would not tolerate other men touching her. Su Yu fearlessly looked up into his cold eyes. You can challenge me. As a powerful 5th-level upper-tier holy king, he had exceeded Su Yu's limit. But, in the end, a fight was inevitable. Even if Su Yu was no match for him, he also needed to try his best. Yang Fan contemptuously smiled. Soon it'll be your turn, so there's no rush. Enjoy your last moments. With these words, Yang Fan gave Zhang Liangli a deep meaningful look. Zhang Liangli's lovely body shuddered. Fear and a sense of powerlessness sprang up in her eyes. Her wavering heart was going to crumble. She had no other choice. If she did not submit to him and satisfy his needs, it would be impossible for her and her husband at the faction. Things would only get worse. Aware of Zhang Liangli's change of mind, Yang Fan looked away in satisfaction. Then he immediately challenged the next 5th-level lower-tier Holy King instead of Su Yu. Furthermore, the next 3 matches were all with the other 5th-level lower-tier Holy Kings. Yang Fan would rather choose the same level of 5th-level upper-tier Holy King than Su Yu. To avoid any mishaps, Yang Fan was saving the weakest Su Yu for the end, to ensure that the last duel was foolproof. After all, if he were to be defeated, there was still some leeway. With the 4th Elder's status, the rules for the next round of assessment could still be revised at the last moment to allow him to get on the ring again and no one would object. But if the last duel was lost to someone of the same level, then he would not have a chance again. Therefore, he would rather challenge the contenders of the same level now, and to save Su Yu for the end, to use him as a stepping stone. You want to use me as a stepping stone? Su Yu's eyes flashed icily. The duel between Yang Fan and the 5th-level Holy King was brilliant. Although he was facing a comparably strong opponent of the same level, his pair of scarlet-flamed pupils was indeed a thorny challenge. The 2 competitors dueled for 50 rounds. Then Yang Fan finally had the upper hand and swept his opponent off the ring. The 4th Elder nodded a little and lightly breathed a sigh of relief. Everything proceeded according to plan. So far, 10 duels had completed. 10 competitors were eliminated and 10 remained. For the final round of duel, we will match you with your opponent. It is a one-on-one duel. If you can defeat 5 competitors, you will become a member of the Abyss of Wutong. The 4th Elder announced and provisionally added, also, your cumulative score will be taken into consideration too. Everyone was mystified by the last sentence. However, the allocation of opponents soon began and the 4th Elder took the initiative to assign them. Su Yu noticed that for the 4 predetermined disciples, their assigned opponents were not each other but the other disciples who were not part of the pre-arrangement. A 5th-level peak Holy King predetermined disciple was up against a 5th-level upper-tier Holy King. The disciples like Mo Wu, who were beyond the Holy King level, would face a 5th-level peak Holy King. Furthermore, to guarantee that everything would go according to plan, the 4th Elder did not assign the 4 predetermined disciples to Tang Yuxuan, the 6th-level Holy King. So, Tang Yuxuan's opponent must be a non-determined disciple. Unsurprisingly, Su Yu's opponent was Yang Fan. When their pairing was announced, the 4th Elder seemed to unintentionally glance at Su Yu. His eyes were frosty with a hint of reprisal. Su Yu secretly shook his head. He was a dignified elder, and yet he was so narrow-minded. It was one thing to shamelessly demand a disciple's item, but when his demand was not met, he would go as far as to secretly harm him. His dark nature was sickening. When he analyzed the faction's upper echelon, the ugliest-looking 2nd Elder turned out to be the most admirable. After he had been in contact with the upper echelon of the faction, he could tell that the faction master might be sanctimonious, but he lived in fear of offending the Great Elder. He stood by and did nothing when Su Yu was going to be killed by the Great Elder. The 3rd Elder had used rewards to deceive the disciples to accept a deadly 6-people mission. Though he looked earnest, he regarded the disciples' lives as worthless in his heart. Not to mention the Great Elder, 4th Elder, and 10th Elder. Such a large faction, and yet only the 2nd Elder was trustworthy. In such a faction, it was hard for Su Yu to have a sense of belonging. At this point, the single elimination duel finally began. Tang Yuxuan was first up and his opponent was a 5th-level upper-tier Holy King. Towering on the ring, Tang Yuxuan stood with his hands behind and coldly glared at his opponent. Do you want an invitation from me to leave the ring, or do you want to roll off on your own? His opponent, a 5th-level upper-tier Holy King, gave a bitter smile, cursed his bad luck and took the initiative to concede. A 5th level upper tier Holy King's gap from a 6th level Holy King was just too wide. Soon after it was Mowu of the Dragon Realm, and she was the faction's 4 great core disciples. In the presence of such transcendental existence, the 5th level peak Holy King did not even step up to the ring. He had no choice but to concede. The remaining 2 predetermined disciples also swiftly defeated their opponents with their absolute crushing advantages. In a blink of an eye, out of the seemingly endless 5 duels, 4 duels had ended with jaw-dropping speed. Finally, only the last duel remained. It was the predetermined disciple Yang Fan against Su Yu. A 5th level upper tier Holy King and a 4th level lower tier Holy King. Their huge gap was like heaven and earth. Swish. Yang Fan took the lead and leaped onto the ring. His fierce eyes held a hint of taunting. "Come on up for a fight, Su Yu." After he finished speaking, his lips were still moving as he vaguely mouthed a few words. The others did not notice, only Su Yu could read his lips and understood. They were those 3 words, "My stepping stone." The 4th elder had arranged a stepping stone for his own disciple. With a cold look, Su Yu walked up to the ring with a calm expression. "Your stepping stone. I hope you don't trip over your stepping stone." The 2 men looked at each other and their battle ignited in a flash. End of the chapter. The Divine 9 Dragon will be read in 5 chapters for every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday and Sunday. Please leave this sound novel and press subscribe, follow, and the bell so you don't miss any new clips as well. See you.